Elizabeth enjoyed entertaining guests throughout her life. She was a hospitable hostess, and her relatives often took advantage of this by coming over for tea and sometimes staying for days. Elizabeth and her husband Matthew were welcome guests, especially in the summer. Next to their house was a beautiful park with a clear lake that was perfect for swimming and relaxing. "You don't need the sea, it is wonderful," Sofia used to say when she came to visit. And most importantly, it's inexpensive. The train ticket is inexpensive. You don't have to pay for accommodation, and 3 meals a day. Elizabeth remained silent in response. When she was young, receiving guests was not a burden for her. But the closer she got to retirement age, the more often she wanted to go on vacation herself. And her relatives would take their vacation exactly when they wanted to visit her. "Has Sofia packed her bags again?" Matthew asked, noticing that his wife was looking at the calendar. "Yes, she asked me when my vacation was so she could plan hers." "Oh man, they are a habit. We see the children less often than she and her husband come to visit us." "I thought that too. They may come for a day or two, but they come for 2 weeks." "No, Elizabeth, I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to put up with Andrew for a fortnight. He's been drinking too much lately." Sofia said she would leave her husband at home. They are currently renovating their dacha. He still has something to finish with the bathhouse. Why shouldn't Sofia vacation in her house? Before they had nowhere to go, so they came to us. And now, remember how Andrew bragged that they bought a dacha in a beautiful place, and that the grass was greener there and the lake was cleaner? I remember. So they should vacation there, or better yet, tell them we'll visit them this year. Elizabeth thought about it and decided her husband was right. After all, Sofia had often said, "Come and see us," and it wasn't right to refuse for so many years. And the reason was a good one, a housewarming party. The conversation with her husband was quickly forgotten in the hustle and bustle of business. But Sofia remembered herself when she called back at the beginning of the summer. "Well, Elizabeth, I'm ready." "Ready for what?" "To buy tickets, of course. When are you expecting me?" "Oh, I completely forgot about that. Matthew and I are vacationing in a sanatorium this year." "Why do you need a sanatorium? You have a beautiful lake near your house, and a park, and fresh air. A change of scenery. I'm tired of seeing the same thing every year." "Why didn't you warn me? I had planned everything, and Andrew also wants to come. He even completed the renovation of the house earlier than planned so that he can come with him." "We have already found subtenants for the holidays. We need the money." "So you have already completed the renovation of the cottage?" asked Elizabeth. She didn't like the reproachful way in which her relatives spoke to her. It was as if Elizabeth owed her a favor. "Completed. I told you that we were in a hurry to visit you. Now you have a nice place to stay. No trips, fresh air, and a clear lake. Andrew says nature is just fabulous. And the most important thing is that you don't even have to spend money on the train." "Well, so we decided." "What decided?" Sofia did not understand what Elizabeth wanted to go out. "What's what?" "We will visit you this year, first to the sanatorium, then a short stay with my daughter, and then we come to you. You asked us to come. So we decided," said Elizabeth enthusiastically. A pause came at the other end of the line. "I'll call you later. We'll see you later." Matthew heard the conversation and could hardly keep from laughing. "I can imagine your surprise. She was already on her way to us. It's such a mess," he said. "I can't wait to go on vacation." "We'll see. I don't think it's a good idea to have you come. I also told her that so that she and Andrew wouldn't come. I need a break from you." "If you have a break from them, the others will come too." "No, after making such a promise, you have to keep your word. We will definitely come. I can't wait to see the property among the pine forests and the nearly alpine meadows." Elizabeth did not contradict her husband. In contrast to Anna Michaelona, her daughter also proposed that she should come to visit, and Matthew received 2 tickets from work to the sanatorium. Everything worked out like clockwork. After 10 days of health-promoting relaxation, Matthew and Elizabeth left the sanatorium and went to their daughter. She received her with joy. "Stay a week," she suggested. We still have one thing to do, said Matthew with a mischievous wink. Can't we go, Matthew? Sophia hasn't called me since then. Call them yourself. Tell her that we will come the next day. She should get ready. You go to Sofia? Yes, my daughter smiled. We think about it. Yes, that's right. It is not enough for you and her husband to come to you. Elizabeth thought about it and called her relatives. Sophia replied to the third attempt. Hello? Hello, tourist. How are you? It is nothing more. We only work on the greenhouse. There is always something going on in the garden. We don't have a minute. I have remembered a million times how nice it was to go on vacation with you. Don't worry, no work, but we come to you. We have done all of our tasks. Now we are free. Maybe we should rather come to you. You have an electric train, but what about us? You can only come to our region by car. Taxes are very expensive for return trip. I'm worried about your wallet, asked Sophia hopefully. Our daughter will take us with us. Don't worry, and don't count our money, said Elizabeth. Sophia saw that it had no sense to argue, so she dictated the address. Then we will wait for you tomorrow, and if you have a car, bring a few foods from the city. We have a small rural shop here, and we are a bit overdue with the renovation work. We never come empty-handed, Elizabeth said. She was a generous person and always gave her friends and relatives something, not just when she visited them, but also when they visited her. And Sophia knew this because she would often see Elizabeth leaving with bags full of gifts. Mostly jars of jam. Elizabeth and Matthew had inherited a small garden with fruit trees from their mother-in-law. Elizabeth was the only one who knew how to make the beloved berry jelly that the whole family enjoyed. But this time, Elizabeth and Matthew decided to go big. They bought delicacies, meat for kebabs, vegetables, and fruits so that the hosts would have plenty on the table. Elizabeth thought that Sophia and Andrew might not have enough money to host, so they stocked up on food and their daughter drove them to the house. Sophia welcomed the guests in overshoes and an old, holy summer dress. You noticed that she hadn't expected her. But Sophia's eyes shone a little when Matthew got the bags out of the trunk with the delicacies. Did you bring wine with you too? Andrew called from the garden. We bought pomegranate juice. It is good for the heart, said Elizabeth. Andrew immediately became sad. Who goes to visit without a strategic supply? We have our own stock, said Elizabeth and pointed to the briquettes with meat. Do you have a grill? Yes, I have. Then let's see what you have. Mum, am I going? Remembered her daughter in silence. Elizabeth expected Sophia to ask her to come along, but she only asked, when will you come to pick up your parents? We haven't discussed that yet. Maybe tomorrow. We have no place to sleep. We didn't expect it. Then I will come immediately when you say it. I will call you, daughter. Thank you. Elizabeth hugged her daughter and went. The trip was not too long, so it was not difficult to pick up her parents. This is our greenhouse. There is the fertilizer barrel. There is the water tank. There are the beds. Andrew listed the advantages of the garden, while Elizabeth found that the house was not the hut that she and her husband had imagined. There was a normal fence, gas and electricity, an iron door with a secure lock, and even the wooden bathhouse looked aesthetically appealing. Such a dacha cost a decent amount of money, and so Elizabeth was surprised that Sophia always complained about the lack of money. She was probably in debt, Elizabeth decided. That's expensive. Why save money? We try it for ourselves. Sophia wanted a shower cabin with a massage, so why should we deny ourselves the pleasure? We only live once, Andrew laughed. So you are wasteful? Certainly. I got a promotion at work, so I can afford it. While the men discussed luxury, Elizabeth set the table. For some reason, Sophia insisted on having a picnic outside, even though there was no protection from the sun and the weather was unpredictable. The wind was blowing strongly and the July sun was so hot that you could get burned. But Elizabeth didn't object. She put on her wide hat and placed the sausages on a plate. Make a fire, said Sophia. We have enough firewood. The men quickly started the fire, while the host continued preparing the food. Elizabeth had to put the kebabs on the grill herself. "Where can I wash my hands?" she asked. "Wash your hands in the barrel over there. Is there warm water there? It's warm outside. The sun is warm. You'll catch a cold. Don't worry. You are a city child," grinned Sofia. "Okay, let's ask us differently. Where can I go to the toilet? In the shrubs?" Elizabeth tried to make a joke. She had expected to be brought into the house where there were toilets, but Andrew nodded to an inconspicuous dandruff outside the garden. "The summer toilet is over there. What if I want to use the winter toilet?" She did not get an answer to this question and understood that if she wanted to use the advantages of civilization, she had to use the offer before she had to go into the bushes. Elizabeth felt uncomfortable when visiting the village toilet, which had been in need of maintenance and renovation for a long time. Elizabeth did not understand this special romance, which everyone is talking about when they praise the ascetic and ecological lifestyle in the country. In addition, with running water and a sewage system in the house, it was a bit strange to accompany guests to the dacha toilet. Nevertheless, Elizabeth had no other choice. She used the outhouse, washed her hands in the rain barrel, and then went to fry on the coals, because apart from her, nobody wanted to take on this responsible task. As before, Elizabeth covered a rich table, but the hosts themselves took part in the feast. "What is rich?" said Sofia, and put a pot of cooked potatoes on the table. "And what is that?" Matthew was surprised and looked at the plastic fork on the table in front of him. "What's what?" "Most of the dishes," laughed Andrew. "You come from the moon. Are there no normal forks and plates? This is much more practical. You eat and throw it away. You don't have to wash off," Sofia replied. "All right then, let's try that." Suddenly, a slight rain started to fall. It became uncomfortable outside without shelter. Elizabeth got up to protect the food from the rain and wanted to carry the plates into the house, but Sofia made it clear that they would stay outside. "Do not gloss over anything. We won't melt," said Sofia as she distributed macintoshes. Fortunately, the rain did not stop, but the atmosphere at the table was not very pleasant. "Delicious kebab," praised Andrew. "He was better last week," said Sofia. "No, it was not. This week. I bought it in the farm shop, and that's normal meat. I like it. Next time you buy it yourself if you are not satisfied," said Elizabeth. Everything that happened at the table reminded her of a joke. "And I told you that we should bring a strategic reserve. Now everyone would want everything. What difference does it make? What kind of kebab if it is not the main thing?" Andrew only considered that for some reason he had no tincture from his stock and drank pomegranate juice. "No, I don't think the kebab is good. And the tomatoes are not cute. We still have some in the greenhouse." "You should have brought what is in your greenhouse." Matthew couldn't stand it anymore. Sofia jumped up and went into the greenhouse with an angry look. Here, she put 2 green tomatoes on the table that were too early to eat. And then there were still red. Andrew spoke up. "I need the red for the Lido," she said. Elizabeth looked at her husband. She noticed that she wanted to go back to the toilet, but she didn't feel like going in the scales. So she quickly typed a message to her daughter and asked her to pick her up. "Thank you for the wonderful reception. Now I will know how to greet guests properly," said Elizabeth and looked at Sofia, but probably didn't pay particular attention to what she said. "Let's go home. I need to go to the toilet." "For the way," admitted Matthew, "with my daughter. If you knew that, you would have brought a handy pot with you, because it is all self-service and self-supporting." Matthew laughed. He agreed to his wife, and they left the food almost untouched. "Oh dear," Matthew shook his head. "I knew that Sofia was greedy, but being so greedy." Elizabeth did not answer. She had made a decision and knew that she would no longer invite Sofia and Andrew to her home. "Next time we will go back to the sanatorium. It is more beautiful and peaceful there," she said. "Exactly," Matthew agreed. Sofia and Andrew arrived for the weekend a little later, but Matthew said they were renovating and suggested sitting in the park in late autumn. Elizabeth did not set the tables this time. The guests were cold, and they went without bread. Sophia and Andrew did not ask to visit their relatives again. Everyone drew their own conclusions to the best of their knowledge and belief.